Welcome, everybody. I'm Ryan Patel, and I'm very excited to be hosting HP's 2020 Innovation Summit. It's going to be exciting. I want to set up the conference and the summit here in a couple ways. Today, the pace of change is faster than ever before. A dynamic and evolving global landscape, rapidly changing customer needs and expectations. Obviously, the COVID-19 pandemic has combined to create one of the most important eras in our modern business history. Technology and digital transformations are no longer buzzwords, not just words to understand, but it's become every part of our lives, from the way we learn, from the way we work. Remote employees, educators, medical professionals, retailers, to hawkers, to everybody has been affected to this. And this landscape of uncertainty calls for many things. One specifically, stakeholder capitalism has become stronger than ever. People are looking for brands and CEOs to ensure businesses and technology has a positive impact on our lives, our communities, our world. It's not just about words, it's about actions. And I think this summit will touch on all those things. With those points in mind, I want to focus the summit on three main areas and give you a preview of those sections. The first section of accelerated change, second section, disrupting industrial, and the third, innovating for the future. In each of those sections, I will be joined by true change makers and experts in the space, where I was able to, pre-record our conversations, and these very thought leaders will be then joining me live here for the Q&A portion right after. So the next section we're going to talk about is disrupting industrial. So we're going to have a quick video and get to the panel, and then we're going to also have another live Q&A with the panel.
Can you imagine a world without waste, where you only produce what you need, when and where you need it? Can you picture a future where personalization isn't a novelty, but the norm? Where we shift from thinking about mass markets to thinking about industries of one? What will it take to make supply chains shorter, simpler, and more sustainable than ever before? These questions will shape the future of industrial production. And the future is now. When safety was critical but supply chains were shut down, doctors and designers and production partners collaborated at an unprecedented speed, 3D printing, testing, and refining PPE in less than a week. 3D printers launched into action around the world, but it doesn't stop there. In Japan, Solaris Products Corporation and Wink are democratizing eye care by producing a transformative smartphone attachment to make disease diagnosis more available and affordable. And only 3D printers give them the accuracy they need. In France, Decathlon has launched its game-changing DX store with a transformational pivot that lets customers 3D print replacement parts for sports equipment. From automotive to dentistry, footwear and prosthetics, the next industrial revolution is upon us, all driving innovation in the service of humanity. We don't have to imagine what might be possible. We get to create it.
Well, that was a really impressive video, and now I'm excited to welcome you all to our next session, Disrupting Industrial. The digital transformation of our global society and economy is accelerating, but also transformation industries everywhere. Breakthrough innovations such as industrial 3D printing are anchors to this transformation, particularly in the manufacturing sector. Joining me to talk about this disruption are Sarah Gerke, founder of Additive Integrity, John Wayne, head of commercial 3D printing and digital manufacturing at HP, Liwao Zhao, head of HP 3D Labs, Ken Burns, the VP of commercial Forecast 3D. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Are you all ready?
Ready. Thank you.
Ooh, thank you.
All right, here we go. I believe digital manufacturing is an opportunity that has not even peaked its growth yet. And there's so many vast opportunities. So John, I'm going to come to you on this. I want to know, what are those digital manufacturing opportunities? So yes, you'll have to tell me. And what do you think it's headed with the evolution and commitment by many to doing it?
At HP, we see additive manufacturing and multi-jet fusion from HP. The opportunity in the marketplace has just been massive. additive manufacturing is playing an increasingly important role in manufacturing ecosystems. We have our traditional manufacturing methods, injection molding. We're not replacing those. What we feel is we're augmenting those. Traditional manufacturing methods are geared towards mass production and economies of scale. But what additive manufacturing brings, it gives you mass customization and the ability to produce on demand. And as I talk to customers across the globe, they see a lot of value in these benefits, and they see a lot of value of having a mixed production environment of traditional and the new additive manufacturing. And to give you a sense of the scale of our business right now, in the short time that we've been in this industry, we have seen customers print north of 50 million parts, and that number is increasing weekly.
That's amazing. I mean, that's just amazing. And you mentioned about customers and, how important that is to understand what is going on. And, Ken, someone who is at the front lines, can you tell a little bit more about your journey with additive manufacturing and how you've helped your customers stay innovative?
It's actually quite fun to be in our position. We get to see a lot of the transformation and adoption firsthand. And it's a lot of the behind the scenes stuff that I think, unfortunately, everyone doesn't get to see all the time. And being a 25-year-old company in additive manufacturing, we've seen a lot of stuff, but mostly prototyping over the years. And as John mentioned, that 50 million number there, I can speak to that because we have produced millions of those parts in the last couple of years alone, and specifically MJF. And it's technologies like the HP MJF that have propelled us into this production environment. And not leaving the past behind of prototyping, but saying the technology can do so much more for these companies who recognize that and adopt it. And so we are excited that we get to walk alongside our customers and see this transformation on a daily basis. And sometimes it's 10,000 parts, but that's 10,000 parts that have never been made before in additive manufacturing, and it's changing the way businesses can execute today. So it's pretty fascinating and exciting to be on the front lines and watch these customers change their businesses.
I mean, that's amazing. What you and John just mentioned about the potential for 3D printing and how really customers are really benefiting today. So that's one great part. But for me, the real change also has to happen. Transformation needs to happen industry-wide as well. And Sarah, I know you've got your pulse on the industry, spoken to a lot of different people in the industry and experts. Can you share more about your point of view on driving collaboration to help digital manufacturing realize its potential?
Of course, yeah. This is actually my favorite thing to talk about in this industry because it's really simple. No one can do it alone. Collaboration is truly the only way forward to accelerate the adoption of digital manufacturing. And just as hardware can't do it alone, software can't do it alone, a materials company can't do it alone, no single company can do it alone. There's just not one full scope solution without working together. So we've seen it especially with the industry's response to the pandemic. Working together, even with companies that have traditionally been positioned as competitors, is vital toward driving toward that greater goal. And over the last half year, I've interviewed, I've spoken with, I've been participating in digital events with executives, engineers, leaders, participants across the digital manufacturing industry. And messaging has been consistent in that a rising tide lifts all boats, and together we can really raise that tide. Digital manufacturing is a relatively young sector of the greater manufacturing industry. Technologies like additive manufacturing, for them to grow and realize their potential, a greater focus must be placed on adoption. And it's hard to look at a pandemic as a positive, but it's really been an opportunity for this industry to fulfill its promises. Competitors have been coming together. Disparate business segments in large companies like HP have been coming together, developing critically needed responses like PPE, testing supplies, as well as stopgap and longer-term supply chain solutions. We've seen consortia arise to create nasopharyngeal swabs from design through getting them into the hands of the people who need them for testing. And we're just going to continue seeing large-scale global adoption of digital manufacturing beyond pandemic and into just a lasting solution. And given the unprecedented collaboration we've seen this year, I know I can't wait to see this industry continue to work together in 2021 and beyond to really grow as a viable real-world solution.
Well, you mentioned that tide. While you're on the tide, that's when I think, you ride the difference of innovation. And I think that collaboration is going to have a different curve that we've ever seen before. And I think people are starting to realize, how to ride that wave. Sometimes you come off and now they're riding the wave. And, I use that as an analogy because Liwa, you're the head of HP's 3D lab. I want you to share kind of what has been more exciting for you in areas of innovation that you're seeing. And, can you share a little bit about HP's vision for 3D printing as well?
Absolutely, Ryan. At HP, we started 3D and digital manufacturing with a mission: bring the new but right ways for people in the world to design, create anytime and anywhere. Build and produce with less material, less waste, minimum steps, and desired performance that is just right for them and for their applications. And starting with the zeros, ones, and storing 0 and 1s, which are really how parts and goods are designed, and only make them when needed. We believe this will accelerate the fourth industrial revolution so that we can further unleash the benefit of digital manufacturing to the world. One of the things that I am most excited about the 3D printing is digitally transforming the supply chains, making them shorter and more efficient with a reduced cost and a lower carbon footprint. And to enable even greater sustainability with the 3D printing, at HP Labs, we're focusing on advanced R&D to improve materials usability and reusability, create digital twins for 3D and digital manufacturing to really fuse the digital and the physical aspects together. And this ultimately reduces the waste and builds the goods faster and more efficient and help drive a more circular economy, I believe.
Well, I mean, that's fantastic. I think, as we've heard from the session before with Enrique and I, we talk about that COVID-19 has provided opportunities to lead through COVID. And, what you mentioned is digital manufacturing is driving the collaboration in this, and we've been talking about it. But John, you and I kind of spoke offline before, and I want to bring up this COVID-19 aspect and the impact and how you all have kind of faced it head on and lived through it. Can you share a little more with the audience? Because I think there's some staggering numbers that I know you shared with me. I want you to share.
No, absolutely. I mean, at HP, we believe COVID-19 has been a watershed moment for the additive manufacturing industry. I think what we've noticed over the last 5 to 6 months is that the traditional supply chains have failed to meet the demand of universities, local governments, hospitals, and in this case for PPE and nasal swabs that are required for COVID testing. And these entities, the only way that they've been able to meet their supply and demand is to be working with local parts providers in country who have set up flexible local manufacturing using additive systems. And what we've seen is that the number of parts that our partners, our parts providers have produced has been staggering. In total, we've produced over 4 million parts that we've shipped together to help in the COVID pandemic. And Ken's on this call, and Forecast 3D have been a big part of that, shipping well over half of those parts.
Yeah, and I wanted to just build on what John was saying, the new product design, new production, distribution, and clearly collaboration with what John mentioned, Ken and Ken's team. The physical production for millions of these parts literally came together in just days and weeks to help meet these needs. The things like parts for the respiratories, ventilators, a face shield, masks for PPE, and nasal swabs to improve testing. This could only be possible through the 3D printing.
Well, Ken, you're getting called out. You got John mentioning you. Liwa has got products. I need you to show us something here. What do you got here?
Yeah, I'm actually going to do a demonstration of the nasal swab. No, I really can't do that.
I so set you up for that. I'm so sorry.
No. But to their point, this is something that, for me, this is a first in the additive space to say that we can pivot and, we have these swabs now that we've taken in collaboration. Sarah mentioned collaboration, how important it is it wasn't us that did this. It wasn't just HP. There was HP, ourselves. There's testing clinics or agencies that are all supporting this. The FDA all collaborating to make products like this happen in a pandemic. And producing over 1 million just of the MP swabs and supplying that in a pandemic is, in my opinion, nothing short of some sort of a miracle that it was actually able to come together. And there's not many ways you can manufacture that fast and that flexible and put a line up that quickly to meet the requirements of a product like that. And it's not just short term either. I think there's some long-term sustainability to some of these products that are being done in PPE. It's triggered something, accelerated something that companies recognize there's brokenness in the supply chain. And it's very exciting to say we participated in producing these couple million of parts for the shortages now, and just seeing what that can do in the long term.
And you hit it right on top of the head. I don't know, in the past we've used the word resiliency in supply chain. COVID-19 has proved that it is enabled by digital manufacturing technologies, and it's a pretty amazing when you get put into that space, in a tight space, to realize how everybody needs to come together. And part of the collaboration we talked about, there was an HP survey that just got published, which I kind of took a few different points that was exciting, and I thought it was an interesting conversation for us to have here. So I'm going to try to give a little bit of fact and see what you guys think, and get your perspective. The first one that stood out to me was 99% of global respondents believe that digital manufacturing technologies can lead to economic growth. Well, Sarah, people are increasing their investment in additive due to the current world business environment. So is that what you're seeing?
That is absolutely what I'm seeing. In fact, if there's anything surprising about the survey results, it's that 99% wasn't 100%. The last half year has undoubtedly been difficult from just about every perspective we can consider, including business operations. Despite that, investment has really been on the rise in additive manufacturing. We do often see investment around this time of year in additive, but the last couple of months in 2020, let's go back to it's 2020, it's a pandemic year, at least a dozen 3D printing and digital manufacturing companies have raised multi-million-dollar investment rounds. Almost everything that I've been publishing at Forbes over the last 2 months has been focused specifically on investment into digital manufacturing. I've got a little bit of a quick list here, just looking at a few of them. We've got Xometry raising $75 million in equity funding for digital manufacturing services. Lightforce Orthodontics raised $14 million for customized 3D printed braces brackets. Dimension had a $14 million raise for 3D printing post-processing. 3Year Mind, $5.5 million. 3D printing software, and even Desktop Metal's recent announcement to become a publicly traded company. These are all really standing strong as testament to the money that people are putting into additive manufacturing because they see the future of this. And those companies aren't all by any stretch. In the last quarter, millions have poured into companies like Additive Industries, Arrivo, Aris Composites, Azul 3D, Icon, Kumovis, Mighty Buildings, Fellow 3D. We've got metal manufacturing, we've got composites, medical specific, and building. And then, of course, we're seeing ongoing merger and acquisition activity. I'm sure, Ken, you can tell us about Forecast 3D's experience, which was huge. We're seeing new additive manufacturing centers of excellence that were previously planned still happening, still opening, and other major signs of investment in the sector. It's a crazy time, but follow the money. It's really being put where people see the future of manufacturing, and that's digital.
Well, yeah, I mean, from the investment side, and even companies, they're seeing additive manufacturing helping companies be more agile. And Ken, since you keep getting called out in this entire panel, I'm going to come to you next, because 3/4 of the respondents said that they saw that it's been helping companies be more agile. And as Sarah mentioned or preluded to, you've got something to share too. So what are you seeing?
Yeah, we can speak from firsthand experience there. So we were acquired at the beginning of the year from a company, GKN Powder Metallurgy. They're a multi-billion-dollar company. They make 13 million metal parts a day. Very traditional. It's a sintering metal process that goes back decades, and they recognize that the future for their business to be sustainable is in these innovative digital technologies, and they've invested heavily in additive manufacturing and acquired us for specifically that reason, saying this makes us resilient, this makes us reliable, this makes us offer new solutions to our customers. We can't just rely on what's been around. We have to keep changing. And so I would say this is wholeheartedly true. I think there's probably going to be more of this going on in the short-term future, more investments, more mergers and acquisitions, because it needs to happen to really progress this industry even more.
Progressing the industry is very interesting because you look at trends, what else is going on. I think if you're not on the bandwagon or jumping on the train around personalization, you're behind the curve. And, John, you mentioned a little bit about mass customization earlier. So I want to call that out a little bit because I think it's such an important aspect. And, how does 3D printing enable that for customers?
Yeah, no, it definitely is a hot topic right now. And we believe at HP that mass customization, personalization is the holy grail for brands, especially large consumer brands. They clearly know that the traditional manufacturing methods struggle to get the economies to do customization, but the additive manufacturing is set up perfectly to be able to produce multiple parts that are all unique for each part. And the best way for me to kind of give that example is with Smile Direct Club. I think we all know Smile Direct Club, a global company. They have standardized on multi-jet fusion as their infrastructure for production, and they create millions and millions of customized teeth shields to enable people to straighten their teeth. And this is only available and only doable on additive manufacturing.
Before I end this to Q&A, hopefully you all four are okay with me doing this. I want to play an extra one more round. We're going to call it Ryan's lightning round. It's pretty much one word or sentence game. So are you all okay with that?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
You don't really have much of a choice because we're going to do it now. So, in one word in this sentence, can you summarize the future of digital manufacturing? Liwa, I'm coming to you first.
Being open-minded and collaborative, the potential is limitless.
Sarah?
Yeah, I'd say, to sum it up, accelerating adoption. The future of manufacturing is digital manufacturing. It is additive manufacturing.
Ken?
So flexibility, agility, and localization.
Finally, John?
Transformational. We can help you customize your product, and we can help you transform your supply chains by producing on demand.
Those are all great answers. Thanks for playing that round. I know it's not easy when you have to sum it up in just one word, but thank you to everyone. Thanks to the audience. I think there's clearly an enormous opportunity to reinvent industries with digital manufacturing and 3D printing. And so now I'm excited to move to the Q&A with all of us. Welcome back live. I love those videos and the beats right there. It gets me more excited to get into it. But as promised, we're going to go live Q&A here. Before I get into that, I do want to make reference that the HP Digital Manufacturing Trends Report, which will be coming shortly your way. So let's bring in all the panel back in. Welcome, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
Well, I got good news and bad news. Good news, you're back with me live. The bad news, there's a lot of questions, so we got a short period of time. So the audience has been feeding this, so I'm going to get right into it. Sarah, I'm coming to you first on this question. I'm reading off. What areas of additive manufacturing are you most excited about?
Okay, so we were just talking about adoption and accelerating adoption, right? So for me personally, what's exciting is that adoption. I like to be that juxtaposition though and say what's exciting to me is when it's boring. Like when additive manufacturing isn't the new zany thing, it's assumed. If you have a manufacturing facility, you're going to have additive manufacturing in it. You're going to have an industrial 3D printer there. You're going to have a desktop 3D printer. When it's just part of how things are made and it's not a question anymore, it's an assumption. It's becoming more real all the time. And I think that that's exciting. I think we're going to be seeing it everywhere. And to the point people are going to get worried about talking about it, and we don't have to talk about it. That's exciting to me.
Well, that's great. You mentioned, while I was looking at the questions, the 3D piece. I think there's a good, I want to ask you this. This is, I think, a pretty great question. What advice would you give me, this is if I were a company new to 3D printing?
Yeah, I think the first thing I'd say is 3D printing is a very generic term. It's like saying, hey, I'm going to go take some transportation today. You're taking a train, a plane, a bus, a motorcycle, a car. It's lots of different services out there with 3D printing. So somebody new to it, I think the expectation needs to be set that there is a lot you can do with it. So there's, the cliche terms you can use like crawl, walk, run. So start slow and find out and focus what you really need additive manufacturing for 3D printing. You can find the right technology and right opportunity to really move it forward.
Well, great. And I feel like these questions are like on cue. Liwa, you and I were just talking about the, our education system and, UC Berkeley as we were alums. Here's a question right around something similar to this. Do you feel that the education systems are graduating people with the necessary skills to fully realize the economic potential of the industry, of the industry 4.0?
It's a great question. I would say not quite yet. Many industries and companies, including HP, who are early riders and drivers, have found in common, and that is the talent for realizing the economic potential for Industry 4.0 are T-shaped individuals with a great diversity, meaning people not only have a real depth of a certain subject, but also good at picking up new areas to broadening their knowledge base, different perspectives and background. But I'm sure we'll get there when we actually all work together. What I mean about not yet is really learning in school on fundamentals in science engineering, and it is still the key for getting talents ready. Meanwhile, learning in an industry environment to build a real world innovation will be a must as well. So having sustainable learning capability and willing to learn new fields beyond what you learn and what you get from the school are absolutely essential.
Well, thanks, Leo. From individually, now there's another question here, John. I'm going to read it verbatim here because I want to make sure I get it right because it's an industrial question. Which industries will show the most innovation and or advancement in additive manufacturing / 3D printing over the next 5 years and why?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. That's a really good question.
You get the tough question.
That's a tough question. So I would actually say there is no one industry that we believe is going to drive the innovation in additive manufacturing, because we believe that additive manufacturing crosses multiple industries. And we think that the biggest driver for it, or the biggest driver that we're seeing now and that we're getting feedback on, is to create the resilience in supply chain. And I think what we've seen over the last 6 months with COVID has kind of reinforced that just a little bit. But if I was to give a couple of areas that I'm really noticing as being big areas, the first one is those customers, those brands that can differentiate their product with personalizations, I believe are the ones that are really going to jump into this feet first. And then the other one I want to throw, and this is a little bit different way to answer the question, is we've seen a lot of local governments and country governments actually take a big interest in additive manufacturing, again, driven because of what's happened over the last few months and really starting to look at manufacturing strategies inside their countries.
Now you know why I came to you, John, because those two things we just mentioned, so critical on having that support and seeing the trend actually, not just in one aspect. So thank you for that. Sorry to put you on the spot. Sarah, the next question, if you can take a answer to, how do you see advancements in data and software impacting digital manufacturing?
Okay, so when you look at digital manufacturing, additive manufacturing, you've got hardware, software, and materials, right? So you need those advances in all three of them for anything real to happen. And, a few years ago, we kind of got to the point where some of the hardware outstripped the capabilities of software that was available at the time. So we need to see the advances in software, and a lot of that is happening right now. It's really incredible to see how it's keeping up and how things like generative design are really happening and enabling the complexity of geometries capable to be realized and to really happen, and especially anything that can automate workflow and really get into a production workflow is remarkable. And we need to see the software rising up, and that's, providing a full end-to-end solution, a full end-to-end workflow in digital manufacturing.
Great. Ken, I want to come to you on this. I kind of really want to ask you about your nasal swab thing that you just did in the segment. I'll refrain from you going viral from this video. But what is the market like now for a digital manufacturer?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think right now you're seeing the market really segment. There's what's traditionally been service bureaus, and we've fallen into that category historically of just making 3D printing parts for prototyping. And now you're seeing a shift with companies, ourselves and others, saying there's more to it. How do we move into production? But to actually do that, you can't use the systems you've been using in your prototyping world. Like Sarah just said, it's about software, it's about the materials, it's about the post-processing, it's about engineering, logistics, all these things tied together. And so part of the big focus, I think, with digital manufacturing and the shift, especially with additive, is to put all those systems together. Because at the end of the day, the customer doesn't really care if the part's 3D printed. They care that they get their problem solved. And that's what we need to focus on. So again, I'll go to Sarah. I hope it gets boring as well, and we can just give them the part that solves their problem.
Yeah, I think we're not trying to tell everyone to be boring, but yes, I think that's the goal, I guess. I love it. John, I want to come to this. You guys have been great and some great questions here, so keep them coming, everybody. Compared to traditional manufacturing, how much time does 3D printing save in the terms of design and production?
All right, I'm getting the good questions today. That really depends on how you're using or what you're using additive manufacturing for, right? If you're using it for prototyping, bridge manufacturing, or production. I guess the best way I can answer that is just through some experiences that we've had at HP. I think through COVID, what we've seen is with the design, the iteration, and the production of things like face shields, face masks, nasal swabs, we saw anything from 2 weeks to 2 months in savings in terms of our time to market, so up to 2 months on those projects. But even bigger, I think most people have seen now, we've got a 580 color multi-jet fusion in the marketplace. There was some complexities involved in actually producing that product, and we used multi-jet fusion to actually simplify some of the design parts of it. It actually saved us 9 months in being able to bring that product to market. So again, it depends on what you're going to use additive manufacturing for, but there are significant time savings that you can get as using the technology.
Thanks, John. I want to squeeze one more quick question. Liwa, we got just a few seconds left. I want to ask you, how can additive manufacturing and 3D printing help address the skills gap?
Wow, big one. Yeah, 3D printing provides a very rich and a wide range of science and engineering challenges and opportunities for innovations, right? But in truth, that as this is, the zeros and ones and get ready for the physical goods in a simple way, but covers design, data pipeline, sensing, actuating, chemistry, physics, and fusion of data and domain science, etc. Learning by doing is important to build new skills and bridge a skill gap. This is what additive manufacturing or 3D printing can offer, and invite all to be hands-on and innovate. So I'll leave it there.
Well, thank you. And to the audience, I promised you I was going to get to as many questions. I have to thank the panel here. They did a fantastic job I asked them to come, do a rapid fire to get to everyone's questions. So thank you to the audience, and to you, everyone on the panel. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, in closing to everyone, first off, I want to thank the audience. You all made my life so much easier with these great questions, because I think you added to the conversation, because I think at the end of the day, we got a chance to hear stories, examples, and industries come together for good. It's clear to me that a new era of innovation is upon us. I think, changes that we, from the way we live, work, and even manufacture. So, we also got to hear more recently in this last panel, the people in the middle of innovation stating the importance of the reinvention and the purposeful impact. And so we also talked about, HP's manufacturing trend report and the HP workforce evolution report, which I think there were some interesting insights that came out of that. And, you talk about being empowered employee, empowered industry. I mean, that word it keeps continuing to pop up. So in closing, I think a theme that I wanted to highlight in all our conversations, which match, I think, with the DNA and heritage of HP, in my opinion, is how we build technology in the service of humanity to innovate. For the entire ecosystem, it's so critical to have moved as a global ecosystem. And I think that word of ecosystem continues to be involved. It continues to be a theme when the word innovation comes into play. So finally, thank you for joining me today, and really appreciate it, and hope you got to take away some insights, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you.